Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
Hi, this is Wendy Babcock. I am back with One Stories. Today I have Michelle Vande with me. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Wendy.
So excited to have you here and for everyone to hear your one story, which will play right after Michelle's interview. So please stay tuned after our little chat here. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Michelle Vande, and I'm a certified holistic life coach and trauma-sensitive yoga facilitator. And really what I do is corporately, I really help with people with burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma, and what that ends up looking like for small business owners or entrepreneurs is people losing themselves in the work that they're doing, with overgiving, and self-sacrifice, and feeling like for some people it's like this badge of honor, but then when you realize like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for so long, it's like you kind of lose yourself in the work, and if you're burning out, you can't keep doing the work that you're doing. And so it's like I help people to be able to do the work that they want to keep doing, that they're passionate about and have a big mission for.
That's awesome. So what part of what you do lights you up the most? What's the thing where you're like, oh God, I'm so excited I get to do this?
I love connecting with people. Um, I've been doing more corporate type of stuff, and I just love seeing people's like eyes light up of like, oh my gosh, like if I take care of myself, I don't have to take it doesn't have to take away from the work that I'm doing. And there are so many different ways, like also just like seeing people kind of like rediscover themselves in a session, like even if it's in a workshop or in a coaching session, or just like I had a client the other day, and she was just talking about we were talking about like her dreams and things that she kind of put on the back burner. And it's so interesting how we just started talking, and I was like, well, what if you just started putting it out in the universe, sort of, and just say, like, hey, I want to do this. And, like, not only putting it out in the universe, but then what are a couple practical things you can do? She had a husband and was like, it would require his, like him to be on board with it. And I was like, just talk to him about it because he doesn't even really know that you're thinking about this. And she talked to him about it, and all of a sudden, like all these dreams are now like this one big dream she had is all of a sudden happening, and it's happening so fast. Like I'm even super surprised at how fast it's happening. I just think it's so cool when people have those moments of like, oh yeah, like this is an actual possibility, where something didn't feel like it was even possible before.
And I imagine you get a lot of clients similar where we have these conversations in our head that we don't say to anybody and we
Yeah.
plan what they're going to say back to us and we don't know. Just like
Yeah,
she just
right.
said, I've done that. Oh, I really
Yes.
want to do this. I don't think Brian's going to be on board or he's going to think it's this or that. And then you mention it and he's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm like, wait, what? In my
Yeah,
head,
right.
that's not what you said.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, oh, that wasn't so bad, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's fascinating to me. So in corporate, so is it mainly like women in corporate? Is it everybody in corporate?
It's everybody, but it tends to be a lot of women because women tend to just be the
Right.
caretakers, the givers.
Yep.
And so like that's who it lends itself to, really, is like people who are doing work. So a lot of times I'm working with people who are helping other people, social workers, people who working in healthcare, even people working in hair salons and things like that. Like anyone who's
Oh
like
yeah.
having constant conversations with other people, and like them dumping their stuff on you, whether it's
Hmm.
because it's part of your job or just because they're in the chair in front of you and they're sharing their life story with you. Yeah, so it's just like helping people to not like take it on as their own too.
Right. Oh gosh, it made me think of something like I should just go around to salons and offer this for like hairdressers and things like that, professionals, because think of all the stuff that they've heard.
Yes,
And
yes. That was one of my most surprising clients is she owned a hair salon and then like also obviously does people's hair, and she's like, yeah, it's like you have no clue how much stuff I hear from people. And then too, it's like if they're, local or whatever, it's like there's no real, it's not like a therapist type of thing where it's like they don't have to keep things confidential, but of course they're going to because they're good
right.
people. And so it's like, how do you like not just like hold all that in and like make you crumble. So
Yeah, and if
yeah,
you're an empath at all, right? And you
yes,
feel all that and you take all that energy home and that can turn on your family or whoever's in front
yeah,
of you at that moment and you don't even know why you're lashing out. So I imagine the work you do has to be so very important for all of them for many reasons.
yeah,
I
definitely,
love that.
definitely.
So let's talk about, so obviously you talk a little bit in your one story about the different phases of your career and all that. So, in getting into the part that you're in now, do you want to talk a little bit about how that happened or how you got into that area that you found that, oh, this is it. This is the thing. This is what I really thrive in.
Yeah. So I never thought I would be a coach, first of all.
Right.
But then I started coaching. I was a health coach and then moved into helping women after child loss because, like I shared in my story, I have a son that had died. And then in doing some more speaking and facilitating and working with different leaders, I really realized that there was this like common thread of losing yourself. And so like after child loss, after any loss, right? You feel like you lose a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's similar with people who are leading, especially from a place with like big missions and big passions, is getting lost in that work and losing themselves in that work. And I had been having this feeling of like it's like I almost want like I want my work with one person to have a bigger impact than on just their lives. And even though I knew that was happening before, I wanted it to really be like they're impacting all of these people. And if I'm impacting this one person, it's like this indirect way of impacting more people and more lives. And especially when we get into the, several people work for nonprofits or they started nonprofits too. And so that's like that mission driven work,
Right.
that it's not only nonprofits, but like those especially, it's like we need them to be able to do the work because the work that they're doing is essential for so many people. And I don't want that to stop for them. So that's kind of how I evolved into that. And I'm definitely like a big like dreamer and visionary. And so like like it was kind of natural for it to kind of grow bigger, I guess, so to speak, with
Hmm.
like working with these different types of people.
And I love it because you're describing basically like the ripple effect. Like you
Yeah.
can you can create change with one person, but then when they go out, that what they've learned from you and what they've done and what they put out into the world now, right? Because they're probably trying to make an impact as well. So now they're
Yes.
almost like given permission now, like, okay, I can do this. And now that just kind of ripples out to everybody else, which is awesome, right? Because most of us just want to make an impact in the world. Most
Yeah.
people I found, what do you want to do with your time? It's not, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. Generally, I don't hear that. Usually it's like, I just really want to make change,
Yeah.
want to create change. And so that brings us to, your one story, that took a lot of courage and bravery to get on stage. So what made you say yes to getting up on a stage and talking about this very personal moment for you? I mean, walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was what I would say would be like divinely guided. And it was like what the people wanted.
What the people want.
Because we talked about too, I was pretty much going to share my story of my son's death,
Right.
and that ended up still being part of the story. But then just a couple weeks into the coaching, I had shared a post and it really went viral.
Yeah.
For me at least, like it had hundreds of shares, it had hundreds of comments over different platforms, and I was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to share this, but I feel like this is what I need to be sharing. And it felt like it was just like meant to be. And so I was just following, following what I probably knew in the first place I should have been sharing or should have been like what I was supposed to be doing anyways. So it was just like following that nudge of, okay, well, this is what is connecting with people,
Yeah.
and um it's time for this story to be shared.
And sometimes it's the scary thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's not difficult to share, obviously, the death of your son, but what you do share takes courage, right? So, I mean, that takes a different level of courage to put out to the world and stuff. And that post showed you the outpouring of love and that,
Yes.
myself, I didn't know that information about you. So when I read the post, I went, oh, and I'll be honest, it challenged the belief, right? The things
Yeah.
that I had thought prior to seeing your post is so different when you know somebody, than when you think you hold a belief about something and then you see something that challenges that belief. I think it opens people's eyes and you understand that life is more nuanced than you realize. And then you're like, I think it softens, at least my hope is that it softens people to
Yeah.
other possibilities and other things. And I know we're kind of skirting around it because your talk's going to play after this. So we don't give the whole thing away of what you talked about. But I think that there's a lot of people whose eyes were open from that post who said, oh, I never considered that. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And because when you know somebody specifically, it really does make a big impact and a big difference. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
huge.
It's and it's really about just like humanizing us, right? And
Yes.
like it's so easy when you don't understand something to kind of like be like, okay, that's over there. It's
Yep.
not really affecting me. And a lot of times too is like I feel like people don't necessarily have like huge opinions or whatever because especially if it doesn't feel like it's affecting them, then it's like
Right.
it's not really that big of a deal. And
Yep.
then when it's like, oh, there's this like real person that has this real story that is like experiencing these real things, I guess it really does matter and it really does make a difference. And I
Yeah.
think that's like that. I mean, I feel like that was like the biggest thing is just like giving people a moment to like have their minds like be curious about it at least and be like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe there is a different way to think about this.
Yeah. Because I really do think that most people are kind. Most people do want to understand, have a deeper understanding. But sometimes you're, like you said, you're removed for it. You keep yourself at least an arm's distance from the actual conversations. But then when you're thrown in the conversation, the people I've met, I should say, maybe I surround myself with really great people who want to have open dialogue and actually talk about some of the difficult things and not be assholes about it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I've been fortunate that way that I have had conversation with people who we have opposite views and we were able to come to the middle and say, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. And they're like, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what's important in this day and age. So, I'm so grateful that you took that step and opened your talk with, what you did, you know?
Yeah.
So what has happened since, right? So like your talk premiered. Have you had feedback? Are people like, holy crap, Michelle? Or, I mean, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's been really cool. And interesting because like of course like we do the premiere and like I'm really excited about it. I'm watching it and like and it's funny because now it's been about 3 weeks and I'm still getting messages from people like,
Wow.
oh my God, I just got a message from someone yesterday, like, oh my gosh, Michelle, I just watched your talk. And it was someone that I hadn't talked to in a couple years. And they're like, like we should get coffee together
Wow.
and just like, so I've been getting messages like that. And then just, and people that I know too, like sending me messages and like, can I share this? And I'm like, it's on YouTube, please share it.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, it's been really positive overall and like seeing some of like the tangible growth with my own stuff with like my YouTube channel has gotten a few more subscribers now.
Good.
My daughter's like, "Oh, mommy, I have to make you a 50 button because I got up to 50 subscribers."
Yay.
It was so cool. She made me one when I got to 42 for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Um and like, you know, just like new people in my sphere, which I think
Yeah.
is really cool. And that just means that like people are being inspired and want to hear more about my story and just like what I'm doing. And I think that that part is really cool.
Yeah. I love that. I love the support from your daughter too. That's
Yeah.
like, "I'm make you a button." That's super cool. I love it. So how can people get a hold of you? Obviously, we'll have all Michelle's information in the show notes down below this episode. But what's the best way for someone who wants to learn more about you, get in touch with you, work with you?
Yeah. I mean, social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, I'm on all of those places.
Okay.
Michelle Vande, I'm there in all of those places. My website, I have michellevandehay.com. Um, and otherwise email, which is michelle@michellevandehay.com. So, Yeah, you can kind of find me any of those places. I have a Facebook group that I have that is connected to my podcast, which is Love Your Life on Purpose. So people can check out my podcast too. They're like 10 to 15-minute podcast episodes. So yeah, those are kind of some of the fun things that I get to do now.
Cool. We'll make sure we have the podcast down below too in the notes because it's a really great podcast. So I love catching it when I can.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate the time and the interview here. For everyone listening, stay tuned because Michelle's one story will play right after this. So thank you.
Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
When everything changed, I saw that image with those 7 words on a friend's social media post. Keep biological males out of women's sports. The image was of swimmers diving into the pool at the start of a race, and each of them with labels. XX, except one that was labeled with an XY, referring to their biological chromosomes. That image and those 7 words made me question, who am I, for the 3rd time in my life? Do I stay quiet to protect myself from bigots and keyboard warriors? Do I silently suffer in my own pain and sadness to protect the comfort of my friend? Do I hide to protect my family from backlash? Something inside me said no. After seeing countless hateful posts about Leah Thomas, the Penn State women's swimmer who had just won the national championship as a transgender woman, I knew I had to speak up. Not because I'm a transgender person, but because I am a former college women's athlete and I have XY chromosomes. I'm someone with an intersex variation. And it was time for people to understand that gender, sex, and most things in life are not binary. Most things aren't simply right or wrong. Most things aren't simply boy or girl. Most things aren't simply either this way or that way. Most things are both and. But before I could click share on my post, outing myself as an intersex person to the world, the fear crept back in. I was right back to being 15 years old, crying myself to sleep, feeling like a freak and questioning why God made me this way. Asking myself, who am I? Am I a boy or am I a girl? Am I supposed to like boys or am I supposed to like girls? If I like boys, does that make me gay? At 15 years old, my parents and I found out that I have Androgen Insensitive Syndrome, also known as Intersex. And at the time, I told my 3 best friends. Other than that, I was pretty much told to keep quiet about it. Don't tell anyone. And rightfully so. My parents and doctors were trying to protect me from ignorant people, from the society that we lived in and still live in, where if you're different, it's scary. And if you're different, people question your validity. They question your humanity. And so, although I was taken care of physically, mentally, I was not. And I internalized that as shame for who I am. And so I got used to silencing myself, silencing my own pain and discomfort to protect the comfort of those around me. So I shared that post. To be clear, no one should have to know this about me. I shouldn't have to share private medical information so publicly, private information so publicly. I shouldn't have to share this to gain empathy and compassion for intersex or transgender people. So why did I? For 2 reasons. One, the sheer rage and anger I had for all of the ignorant shit that I saw people saying about how transgender women were ruining women's sports, because they are not. And then there was the other piece. The healing journey I had been on for the last 3 years of my life after our son died in his sleep at 12 weeks old. For the past 3 years, I had been healing from the death of our son. And I remember a moment when everything changed, and it was March of 2019. It was about 6 months after he died. I was battling depression, PTSD, and anxiety, which looked like binge eating, chips, cookies, anything I could get my hands on to suffocate the pain. I was also barely able to get myself out of bed. I was like a sloth every morning, just barely peeling myself off of my bed. And I was also getting into screaming matches with my then 5-year-old daughter so bad that I would lose my voice sometimes. I was becoming a person I hated, someone my daughter didn't deserve. And I found myself asking, who am I? And as someone who had spent years and years and thousands of dollars on professional development, books, and conferences and seminars, I thought I could do it all on my own. I was completely wrong. I got not one, but 2 therapists, one for myself and one for my family. And then I also did something else. I signed up for a 10K race. And this was a huge moment for me. I had the option of signing up for a 5K or a 10K, and I almost signed up for that 5K because I hadn't become a runner until I was an adult. It was about 2 years before our son was born. And for me, running was not my thing ever. Even though I was a college athlete, volleyball player does not translate to long distance runner, and anything over a mile is long distance to me. So I became this runner, and 5Ks became okay for me, pretty easy. And then I ran a couple of 10Ks, and those were much more challenging to train for and much more challenging for me to finish the race. And both races that I ran did not go well. And so I realized when I had the option of either a 5K or a 10K that I needed to sign up for that 10K. That if I signed up for that 5K, it would have only required motivation to do it, and it wouldn't have had the impact that I needed it to have. And as someone who's taken almost every personality quiz out there, I knew my number one strength was positivity from the Clifton Strengths Finders. And so this was a huge aha moment for me, and something I still stand by today, that being motivated is overrated. And if it only requires motivation to do, then it's probably not going to have a big impact on your life. And I needed something to have a big impact on my life. I had to dig deep into my burning, driving desire why I wanted things to change. So many of us have surface level whys. Oftentimes, if you're asked your why, people say my kids, my family, my health. And at the time, mine was my health. But that was my surface level why. That was something that sounded good and I really, truly wanted, but it wasn't enough to get me out of bed. It wasn't enough to stop binging. It wasn't enough to do the healing work. And so my burning, driving desire why, that I call going 5 layers deep with your why, was that I wanted to feel like myself again. And I wanted to be the mom that my daughter deserved. So as that 10K was getting closer, I was remembering the past 10K that I ran, which didn't go well. It started off poorly, first of all, because it was over 90 degrees plus humidity, and the heat index was so hot that they almost canceled the race. I almost wish they would have. And I had signed up for that 10K and this 10K with a group. It's always nice to do things as a group, right? You can inspire each other and cheer each other on. And so when we were running that race, we all get separated a little bit, and I came up to one of the first water stations, and I noticed the group ahead of me was still there. And when I got up to them, they said, "Hey, Michelle, I think we should just run together as a group. We don't need to worry about our race times, and let's make sure we finish this race safely together." Which is, yeah, I'm all for that. I don't need to win any races here, and I wasn't going to anyways. But there was one problem. I had never trained to run a race and then stand and wait because there was a group behind me still. And so during that race, while we were standing there, something in my gut said, "Michelle, you should keep going. Don't wait too long." But my mind was saying, "Michelle, don't be selfish. You have to do this for the group." And then my body started talking to me and tightening up. And I started ignoring my own pain. I was silencing my pain to protect the comfort of those around me. Although I did finish that race, it was so challenging, I could barely walk, let alone run. So I knew this time had to be different. And I realized that I could support the group and be a supportive person and prioritize my race. I could support the cause that we were running for and prioritize my own needs. And because I did that, I got to cross that finish line not only feeling amazing, but PRing, which means I got my best time ever. I ran across that finish line and I grabbed that rope of that PR belt and I rang it so hard, it felt so good. And I still get chills thinking about the picture that my husband took of me. There's so much emotion in that one picture, not because I just ran my fastest time ever, but because I actually felt like I knew who the hell I was in that moment. And it felt so good and it was so liberating. That was a huge pivotal moment for me. And it wasn't the only one. It was very climactic. The rest are not so climactic. But I was having coffee with a friend later that year. By now it was October of 2019, and it was about a year after my son had died. And I was talking to her about, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. For the past 9 years, I had been a caretaker. I was nannying and I did in-home daycare and I was taking care of my kids as well. And that was never a long-term plan for me, but it was something thought I was going to be doing for 5 more years with my son. But because that was taken away, I was now asking, what do I want for my life? And not just for my family, but for me. So she suggested I become a health coach because I was already doing a little of that on the side, but not charging people for it. And I was like, I don't want to be a coach. I don't want to tell people what to do with their lives. And after we had longer conversation, I realized she was right. It's something that I think I was meant to do, especially because I had been told by people in the past, Michelle, you should be a coach. But I always just thought it was something nice people said because I was really positive. And needless to say, I started health coaching. It didn't take me long to realize that my clients needed more work with their mindset and beliefs about themselves more than they needed to know what to eat and what not to eat. And although I wasn't looking for it, I came across a holistic life coaching certification program in January of 2020. Not only did I find profound healing for myself in that journey, healing from some of the wounds from when I was 15 years old, but I also got this message that I should be helping women after child loss find themselves again. So I started coaching those women. And then 2 years went by, and during that time, towards the end of the 2 years, I was starting to get asked to speak at conferences and facilitate at retreats. And so I started doing that, and I was talking with the people running these events. They were business owners, nonprofit leaders, and I realized something. There was something similar to them and the people I was working with. They had also lost themselves, not because of some traumatic event, although for some of them, they did have something like that happen in their past, but because of the over giving to their passion and their mission. They were giving so much of themselves to their mission, so much of themselves to their families, so much of themselves to everyone else, and they were giving themselves whatever was left, which was little to nothing. So they were losing themselves in their mission. And I knew I needed to start helping these helpers, changemakers, and leaders. And ever since then, something I've really noticed with myself is that the more I lean into who I am for me and not who I need to be for everyone else, the more love, compassion, and empathy I have for myself, which means the more love, compassion, and empathy I can have for others. And so I've started helping the helpers, and it's been so freeing. And now I get to not only coach these amazing leaders and business owners, I now get to have fun recording podcasts, creating YouTube videos. I get to be inspired by the people that I'm coaching. And I get to get paid to travel, which is one of my favorite things, to go speak and facilitate. And I also now get to eat freely and intentionally. I also now get to wake up in the morning excited for the day, most days. And I also now get to be the mom that my daughter deserves and have a relationship with her. And it is so freeing. And my mission is to create a more inclusive, peaceful, and prosperous world for all, where people don't have to hide to protect those around them. And as I say that, I understand that for some people, it may not be safe for them to not hide. And so in saying that, I want to honor my own privileges as a coach, a trauma-sensitive yoga facilitator, a speaker and space holder to people all over the world. I want to honor my privileges as a white, cisgender, able-bodied person. It is easier for me to stand on a stage and talk about these things about myself. It's not so easy for everyone else. And it's not psychologically or physically safe for some people. And that's why that's my mission, is to create a world where it is safe for anyone to really be who they want to be for themselves. So if you are a mission-driven leader, if you are a business owner, if you're someone who has a passion for something, I want you to know that you are your mission's biggest asset. Your health and well-being have to be of the highest priority, because when you prioritize yourself, that means you get to power your mission. You get to keep moving forward. The more you're giving, the more you need to receive. And the more you receive, the more you're able to give. I can pour out so much to people because I give a lot to myself as well. I'm open to receiving. And I know that can be so challenging to be open to receive help, but it is one of the most valuable things you can give yourself. And you are worthy and deserving of that love, of that help. As I was practicing for this talk, I realized something about these moments when I asked myself, who am I? Something I never noticed before. This was just last week, that there was a couple differences. The first 2 times I asked myself, who am I? One was when I was 15 years old, and the other after my son had died. It was from this place of desperation, of this low place in my life of really being in fear and confusion and just the lowest places I have ever been. And some people may be at that place right now. But then this third time that I asked myself, who am I realized something. When I saw that image and those 7 words, I realized that when I asked myself, who am I? It came from a place of empowerment, of who do I want to be? Who do I want to be for myself? Who do I want to be for my daughter? And who do I want to be for my 15-year-old self that didn't have something like that? And so I'll leave you with these questions to ask yourself and reflect on. Are you being who you are meant to be? Or are you silently suffering in your own pain to protect the comfort of those around you? Who are you? Thank you.
Your story matters.